Hey, gotta get.
All righty, let's change the view to gallery view. All right, so then we can see both of us. Okay. So good morning, Dave. So happy to have
Good
you
morning,
on.
Stacy. I'm glad to be here. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, so the reason why we're talking to Dave today is because he has got some golden nuggets to share with you all on how to run your financial life like the billionaires do and not get caught up in all of what's happening with the economy. You can kind of
Mhm.
prevent and save yourself from what's happening in the world right now. And so really think you should listen to what he has to say. The reason why we're on is because Dave is one of our sponsors to our meetups that we have. So in Tucson, Arizona, we have live in-person meetups that connect real estate investors, so landlords, people who are doing fix and flips, people who are buying and holding on to apartment buildings or buying and flipping apartment buildings, people who are into self-storage, people who are into raw land like myself, people who are doing mobile homes. There's multiple avenues to real estate investing. It's not just all houses, it's not just all commercial spaces. There's so many facets to it. So we want to connect people who are out there wheeling and dealing, people who are out there with dirt underneath their fingernails doing this real estate investing, connect them with who they need to do business with. So who do they need? They need contractors, they need subcontractors, they need an HVAC guy to tell them that the air conditioning is good on the um, house they're about to buy, or they need a roofing guy to tell them the roof is good on an apartment or a residential home that they're about to buy. So they need help. If they're going to be doing a fix and flip, they need dumpsters out there. They need porta potties. They need everything. More importantly, they need a lender. They need a CPA. They need appraisers. They need home inspectors. So these are the types of people that come to our meetups, but we also have to take our finances into consideration because how are we going to afford these projects? How are we going to get the capital to do these fix and flips? How are we going to, we can compare and contrast what you're doing, Dave, with maybe a hard money loan, for example, or a traditional
Sure.
lending, like why your way is better, like eons better. I can't wait
Yeah.
to dive into it. So let me introduce Dave to you guys. This is Dave Parmerlee. He's from Michigan, and he has a land business just like I do. He is a land investor, but he also helps people with their financial health. So one of the key things that Dave said to me when I first was talking to him, I said, Dave, what do you do? And he said, I cure financial cancer. And I said, ooh, tell me more about that. So, Dave, I'm gonna let you take over. What even does financial cancer look like? Like, what would someone's life and financial situation look like if they had, quote, financial cancer?
So, financial cancer, in my definition, is kind of how I understand maybe the government or big banks would want you to utilize your money. So essentially, they want you to put your money in qualified plans, whether it's a 401k, an IRA, a 403b. You put your money away and then you borrow for everything else. So whether it's a car, whether it's your house, and then you're paying, dividends or excuse me, interest and principal on those. That's a tough treadmill to keep running.
Okay.
So that's my definition of financial cancer. Um,
Doing it the
and
old
then
way. What's wrong with the old way? Tell us why, if we keep doing it the old way, why we're going to run into trouble.
how long do we have to talk?
Long as you want, baby.
So let's just say let's hit some highlights. Regardless of how you are choosing to vote this coming November, there's a lot of unrest in our country, and who knows what that will look like. Another reason, let's say you put your money in a qualified plan. I am not, 59 and a half, so I have several years until I would be able to pull that money out penalty free. I don't know what the dollar is going to be worth. I don't know what our government's going to look like in that amount of time. So there's a lot of reasons to kind of look at things differently, is maybe kind of the nudge I would give people. Here, this is a different way to look at what people tend to tell you and to teach you.
Okay. Why do you think we've been taught the old cancerous way? Who's benefiting from that?
Yeah. So the big banks benefit essentially, and this is a very simplistic way of looking at it, but if you were to put your money in, use a nice round number, say $1,000, the bank, backed by the government, is able to then loan your $1,000 out 9 more times without actually having the $1,000 in the bank. So they are making their interest, they're making their money off of your hard-earned money that you put in. They also hamper your ability to use your money in a liquid fashion. Um, so to give an example, I went to get a substantial amount of money. I just got a check in, land business. Went to go get it out of my bank, and they said, I'm sorry, Dave. There's a 10-day hold on it. So why would that be? Well, we need to make sure the money is legit. I promise you it's legit. Please let me have my money.
Oh
And we did a rigmarole, and thankfully they allowed me to have my money that day.
wow.
But what we're getting into, none of that exists. It gets your money out of the big banks. It stops them from making money off of your money, and it allows you fluid control over your assets, which is a wonderful thing in business.
Great. So in the land business, Dave and I both have land businesses, and how we do it
Mhm.
is we do it by owner financing. So we acquire property and then we wholesale it or sell it retail, and the people who are buying it from us are paying us on terms, which means they're paying us per month. So kind of the sweet spot is like $200 a month. So we have lots and lots of people all paying us roughly $150 to $200 a month monthly for their land. Um, which means we don't get our money back right away immediately for what we paid for it, for what we bought the land for. So how can we use your methods to buy property with it, to buy either a home or an apartment building or land, or how can we use it?
So I don't know if we've mentioned the method is titled the infinite banking concept. So it is a process. It's not an investment. I kind of get that question quite often. It's not an investment. It is a long-term play, and it is a way to manage your own cash flow, ins and outs. There's no taxable events that exist in it. But one of the beautiful things is that once you put that money into your policy, that money stays in the ledger, is what I call it. So let's say I put $10,000 into my policy. That money stays in the ledger, continuing to grow in interest as well as receive an internal rate of return. But then I can borrow against that cash value. So that money stays there. I borrow against the cash value, and I can kind of explain the collateral that's involved in that. But that money stays there at $10,000, and I take the cash value that took a loan on,
Mhm.
implement that, and then I pay myself back from the money that I just made. And then the next year I put another 10,000 in, so I have 20, even though I borrowed against that cash value. And what happens is, instead of, call it stair step growth, there's
Mhm.
exponential growth. And over the
Yeah,
course of time, that just grows and grows and grows. And it's a way for your grandkids to have legacy wealth. There's a bunch of things you can do with trusts and things like that. Um, so it's a beautiful thing.
it is.
Uh, to be
Yeah,
honest, I
it's
forgot I got on a rabbit trail talking. I get excited, Stacy. I'm
no, it's
sorry.
a
I get
cash flow
excited to talk about
system,
legacy.
and you're building
Mhm.
legacy wealth, like you mentioned. It's so perfect.
Well, you had asked specifically in the land business. So that's what happens. We specifically do it with our tax money. So we save tax money every month. We fund our policies. And to be honest, we use investor money to do that. So I can get into how so I don't fund my policies with my own money. I use investor money to do that, fund my policy, borrow against the cash value. And then as our taxable savings, in other words, the money that comes in, we set aside for taxes, I pay that back into our policy to pay myself back. And that money just continues to grow and grow and grow. And then the next time I want it, whenever I want it, I could click a couple buttons, and then 3 days later, there's a check in my mailbox and it's ready to go.
Yes, it's so great. It's so great. So, um, how did you get into, I mean, because you're a land investor, so how
Mhm.
did you pivot into also adding IBC to your offerings?
So actually, the weekend I got the chance to meet you, I met another gentleman. His name is Mike Stevens. He's my general agent, and he has been doing this for 20 years. Just side note, he's going to come out with me to Arizona, so I'm excited to have everybody meet him. He's a great guy. He has done a lot of different things, and one thing he's very good at is making money. He's not great at working, and I say that very as kindly as I can. He knows how to make money very well. So he spends time with his family. All of his boys are Division I athletes, but he's out at their games and things like that. But how I got into it, I hooked up with him. He and I started doing land deals together. Just back and forth working together. And he kind of let me in on, hey, I have this thing. Would you be interested? And once I understood how it worked and the benefits, not only in the term, but the long term, I mean, that Kool-Aid was drank, Stacy. And I asked, how can I help? How can I get this into other people's hands? Because it is so beneficial. So from there, I become a certified producer. I can provide policies in any state in the United States. Work with a couple different companies, Emeritus, but mainly Lafayette Life out of Cincinnati. Great company. Spending a lot of time talking with their representatives, and they do a great job. But yeah, I enjoy solving a policy to fit people's needs for whatever they want. Small, big, in between. I get really excited about helping people do that.
And your own children have their own policies too. Tell me about the cookies.
So my daughter, we are doing our best to teach her how to be an entrepreneur. She is a great people person. One of her skills and one of her gifts is to see people exactly for who they are and then love them right where they're at. So with that comes her ability to talk with people. So to foster the entrepreneurship, she has started baking cookies and cupcakes for all of my boys' games. So my oldest boy plays football on Saturday, and my youngest plays baseball. So she'll bring her cookies and cupcakes to the games, and she'll sell them. And she has a business plan. How much does each one cost? How much is she making? But we use an IBC policy for her to facilitate all that. So she's putting money in, she can take money out. So we're teaching her how to use her own policy as her bank. She wouldn't, qualify. She's not 18 for a traditional account at any bank, but I set one up for her, and she gets to move that money in and out, keep track of it, hop online. Let's look to see what we have. But going back, each of my kids do have their own policies, and we pay braces out of that. We rented Lila's trombone for band this year out of that. Just different miscellaneous things. It's a cash flow system where I'm not paying interest. If let's heaven forbid I go over on a credit card, I'm not paying interest to them. It's coming from my own bank, and it gives me a lot of flexibility and fluidity.
I love that you're making this so accessible because this was previously not accessible to everyone. Only the rich, only the elite could have it. And now it's affordable and available. So tell me, for the land investors who are watching this, uh, let's let's give them some incentive for when they come to the meetup. What are some golden nugget bombs that, and what can they glean from you? What can
Yeah.
they come and hear you talk about at the meetup? And then I've got a follow-up question to that.
Well, I want to reiterate one thing you just said. My passion is to get this in people's hands. I don't take commission from any client. So if you were to come meet with me, you don't pay me $1. I get commissions from Lafayette Life or Emeritus, and that is plenty for me. So that's call it a golden nugget. If you do a meetup, I'm happy to get you the genesis of all this happened. His name's Nelson Nash. He wrote a book, Becoming Your Own Banker. I'd love to get you a copy of that for yourself. So if you schedule a meeting, we'll get you a copy. And then the other thing I'd like to do is create an illustration. So we'll sit down if you were to come, we'll talk. What are your needs? What are your wants? And we can build a policy to fit that. And you can walk away with an illustration over the course of several years. We can do as many as you want. But what would that look like? How much would need to go in? What does the interest and dividends look like after this amount of time? What would the cash value be that I could borrow against my policy? So we can leave you with some tangible proof that this is very, very beneficial. That is the cure for financial cancer. So
So
really,
you're
those three
saying that
things.
or not land investors, just real estate investors in general should be using this to buy their properties.
I think anyone whether you're buying a truck, you're buying your next house, it takes some time to build that up. But what amazes me is that money, even though you're using it, stays in the ledger. So I put in 10, I borrow, let's say 5, I still have 10 in there. The next year, 10, and it continues to grow, even though I'm using that money. So it takes some time, but anyone that's buying any sort of bigger item, I think should be using it, especially land investors. Churches is another example, Stacy. They're doing building projects. We're working with a couple churches. They're putting money into their policies, and then they're going to take it out, borrow against their own cash value, build their building, and then pay themselves back without ever getting a bank involved. There's no interest. They pay it back when they want. If they don't have the money for that month, they don't pay it back. It's a beautiful thing. So really anyone should be using this.
You kind of speak like a pastor.
Do do I?
You
I don't
do.
know. I'm passionate about it. Hopefully
Yeah.
pastors are passionate about what they're talking about. I'm passionate about this.
Yeah. No, you're involved in your church. You're a family man. You're an investor. You used to be a principal. Is that right?
I did. I was a principal that before we got into the land business. I was in education for 18 years. I taught high school math and then was an elementary principal for 5 or 6 years. It all runs together. I don't remember. And then I worked at central office, so the head of our district for the last 4 or 5 years, doing all the federal and state funding. So for us to get our money, I had to do my job. It's kind
Mhm.
of the crux of it. So yeah, that's
You
that's
do
my
have a
background.
background in finance.
So a little bit, yeah, and working with the money. I was not the financial director, but she and I worked very closely, and I was the accountant. So I made sure everybody, kids wise, was where they needed to be. I worked with the county and the state level to make sure all that was in place in terms of data and reports and all that stuff.
Awesome. Okay, so one more question. With an infinite banking policy, it's a life insurance policy, right? And you have to put, it's not a normal life insurance policy. Like you just can't get this anywhere. That's why they need you because it's got certain riders on it, right? So it needs to be done correctly. You just don't get this, you know,
Mm.
from whomever, right?
Yeah, it is a whole life policy. Um, there are specific people out there that have a rather large platform that disagree with whole life policies, but I'd be happy to combat any of that. It is a way again to cure financial cancer. The legacy benefits of it are astronomical, but it is a whole life policy that we build in a specific way. Um,
So
I
there is a death
build.
benefit.
Can you say that again, Stacey?
So there is a death benefit.
There absolutely is a death benefit. So to give an example, this churches, one of the churches that we're working with, they took a policy out on their one of their older pastors. He was retiring. And what they did is they built the policy up and then they borrowed against their cash value to pay him his, call it his leaving gift, or it's not severance because he wasn't fired, but he kind of retired, retirement gift for lack of a better word. And when that pastor passes away, hopefully it doesn't happen for a while, but when he does, the church is the beneficiary of that death benefit. So all the
Mhm.
money they gave for him and his legacy gift, his retirement gift, they get all that money back when he passes away. So there is absolutely a death benefit involved in this.
Tell me more stories about people who have used IBC policies and what have they used them for? Give me like one or two more stories.
Yeah, this is the fun part. Um, I know a lady who uses it to do farming. So she does it with her cows. So she'll buy a cow from her policy, and then she'll, as she makes, whether it's milk or chicken eggs, I don't know how to run a farm, but all the money she's making, she puts it back in, and then that's how she buys her cows. It really can be done any which way. Cars are a great example. Whether you finance a car, so let's say it's a $50,000 truck, you're spending. You finance it, you're going to owe 60,000. By the time you get that 60,000 paid back, you're at zero. You're at nil. No. Let's say you saved up for 50,000. But save up, great, very disciplined. Pay that off, you're back at zero. With an IBC policy, you're $50,000, 10,000, let's say every 5 years. When you buy your truck, you're at 50,000, and then you start over, and then your next truck, you're at 100,000, and then 150,000. All the while, you get that same truck. So by the time you're on your fourth truck, you have $200,000 in your account from the accruing interest, dividends, and internal rate of return. And it's as if you had never purchased 4 trucks, and yet you have, let's say, your newest truck for you, and the other 3 go to your 3 boys. Everybody's got a truck, and you've got all your money back.
Yeah.
That's another great story. So Mike Stevens loves to talk about that because he has 3 sons and he has a truck. That's one of his favorite stories because that's actually what he did, and all the money is back in his account at this point.
Yeah. So, people who are watching this broadcast, Dave is going to be speaking live. He's flying into Tucson from Michigan for 2 full days,
Excited.
and he's going to come to our meetup. So he's going to explain the infinite banking concept at the meetup. But then if you want a personal one-on-one with him, he's got time for that. So he's got time built into his day, Thursday and Friday when he's here, where you can meet with him one-on-one and talk about your personal circumstances. So we're going to open up and share his calendar. There's going to be a link somewhere attached to this video where you can book a time to talk with Dave one-on-one. But I've had an IBC policy for several years, and I can attest to the fact too that it is so needed. It's a secret weapon in your back pocket. It is so many people, so everybody needs to know about it, and everybody needs to be working towards getting one for sure. And it's not hard to get one. You just have to talk to Dave. So, Dave, do you have anything else that you want to add, or any more stories that you want to tell?
No, I'm going to save some stories for coming to Tucson. I would add, I'm very thankful for you and what you're doing, and providing this platform. I think both of us are genuinely just trying to help people out. I really appreciate that about you and what you're doing. So the last thing that comes to my mind is I'm just excited to get to know people. So if we sit down and you decide it's not for me, that's great. If you decide, I don't know about this Dave guy, he's a character, man. I need IBC somewhere else. I want you to have this so badly. I will refer you to somebody else. I know other people doing this. I just want you to have a policy because it helps and it's so beneficial. It is a cure for financial cancer. So I'll hook you up with somebody else. I would just ask, educate yourself. Come to the meeting. Let's chat. Let's swap some stories. Let's hear where you're at in your business, and let's see if we can help you. Uh, bring some fluidity, bring some legacy, some stability to your finances.
You're so humble, Dave. You're so humble. Thanks so much for this conversation this morning.
Yeah, thank you. It was fun to get on. I like talking about IBC, so thank you for the opportunity.
Yes.